Hey guys, how are we doing? So we're back on another Mother's Basement video. Been a while since I've done one of these. I'll say wow, it probably hasn't been that long. Feels like it to me. This one seems to be about One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100. I absolutely love both of them. I've got the One Punch Man mangas, volume 1 to 12, I do believe, right around somewhere. I love it. Mob Psycho really took me by surprise. I didn't think it would be as good as it was, and we've got season 2 of both shows next year, which is cool. I don't know what this is about. I just know that One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 are in the title. I thought, cool, check it out. What I really love about One Punch Man and Mob Psycho, though, just before we start, is the fact that it's One is the guy that writes these, isn't he? Yeah, and he's a really good writer, because you can tell by the fact that Saitama and Mob are completely polar opposite characters, even though the art style seems the same. They're completely different, and it's good that he can write different main characters. He doesn't just write the same thing. Anyway, let's just get into this. Superhuman heroes.
One, the mangaka behind One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 is a very, very good writer.
Yes, he is.
A pair of manga are this popular and well received and look like, well, this,
originally.
I think that much can be taken as self-evident. And with Mob Psycho 100 premiering on Toonami today, assuming you're watching this on the 27th, and new seasons of both shows arriving next year, I wanted to take a moment to highlight my favorite aspect of his writing and look at how it shapes both of his most popular stories. On the surface, One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 might seem pretty similar. Both are stories about characters with incredible superhuman abilities that surpass those of everyone around them. Both find comedy in turning shonen battle tropes on their heads and transforming setups for over-the-top fights into anticlimaxes. And both retain a sense of conflict by focusing on the mental state of their protagonists over the mostly moot question of whether or not they can win a given fight. But that last point isn't just a workaround to keep an action series with an OP protagonist interesting and relatable for more than a few chapters. It's the whole point of both franchises. In Mob Psycho 100 and One Punch Man, one uses the exaggeration inherent to stories about superheroes and superpowers to highlight and amplify the mundane human experiences of his superhuman protagonists. At their core, both stories are character studies, and since both Mob and Saitama are very different characters with very different personalities, their respective studies lead to very different places. Saitama is an ordinary person who set out in single-minded pursuit of an impossible goal and achieved it through sheer force of effort, only to find that doing so left him bored and devoid of any real motivation. Mob, meanwhile, was born with incredible and wholly unearned gifts, yet he finds that they're of little use to him in the real world. They don't help with making friends, being popular, getting girls, learning, or any of the other challenges that he actually faces in day-to-day life. They also, by his own reckoning, don't make him any more or less special than anyone else, while the fact that Saitama is a pretty special guy is kinda self-evident. The most fundamental difference between them, though, is where they're at in life. Mob is an average middle school kid dealing with average middle school kid problems. Saitama is a 25-year-old burnout who doesn't know what to do with himself. The theme at the heart of Mob Psycho 100 is growing up, while One Punch Man is about the more open-ended and mature challenge of finding and holding on to meaning and purpose in one's adult life. One Punch Man posits that it's not getting what you want, but overcoming the obstacles in your way that makes accomplishing things feel worthwhile and satisfying. Thus, without obstacles to overcome, that satisfaction remains eternally out of reach. And the same things that make the series so funny, the literal punchline of seeing villains who've been built up like the biggest of bads in other anime go down in a single punch, helps to illustrate this idea. Almost none of the most exciting moments in One Punch Man actually feature the title character. The fights in the series
it's just over straight away.
As engaging and action-packed as any action manga or anime that you can name, with characters struggling mightily and implementing clever strategies to battle seemingly impossible odds. But only before Saitama shows up. Once he does, battles invariably end with a gorgeously animated or drawn, but brief and fundamentally unsatisfying explosion of blood, guts, and debris. Saitama doesn't get to experience the same thrills and challenges as other heroes do.
No.
He's robbed at every turn
Every
of
time
that
he's like,
satisfaction.
beat them in
and
one
that
punch.
also makes him kind of a crappy hero. I mean, he saves a lot of people's lives, but by making it look effortless, he only really serves to discourage rather than inspire them. When they watch someone like, say, Moomin Rider fight, they have no choice but to hope against hope that despite all odds, maybe he can come out on top. And on the off chance that he or one of the other heroes actually does, it's an incredible moment. But Saitama gives us nothing to hope against. In the absence of adversity, hope is kind of empty and pointless. And since hope is a fundamental and necessary part of being human, so too, One Punch Man posits, is adversity. Without it, Saitama is left unhappy, unmotivated, unfulfilled, and emotionally numb. Despite his incredible abilities, he can't motivate himself to lead any more than a meager, basic existence. Pulled up in a tiny apartment,
get the cheapest deals in the supermarket.
Money can buy, and not much else. This is an interesting angle from which to explore what are, when you break them down, textbook symptoms of depression. People who suffer from depression often describe being emotionally numb, feeling like the world around them is flat and uninteresting, and feeling like there's no point in trying, well, anything. That sense of pointlessness often comes from a preconception that failure is a foregone conclusion. Conversely, for Saitama, it comes from knowing that his success is assured to be effortless. Regardless of the reasoning he gives for it, though, the end result is the same. Saitama is sure that anything he does will end in disappointment, so he doesn't really want to do anything. He'd rather lay at home wasting away in front of a TV. And he'd feel that way whether or not he was the strongest man in the world. Saitama was depressed long before he became a superhero, stuck in a dead-end job with no real prospects of moving up in the world, and no intrinsic motivation to do so. He was perfectly content with letting Krablante kill him in their first encounter, and the only thing that pulled him out of his funk was his newfound hobby of heroism. An obsession that distracted from his problem, but
you can
did
kill me,
nothing to
don't kill
actually help it, and only made it worse in the long run. In the same way that the obsessions of many of the people who become mysterious beings essentially turn them into uncaring monsters. But Saitama does find help in facing this problem elsewhere. I mean, it's not like we never see him happy.
No, it's true. He's right with Vegino,
challenge Genos to a spicy udon eating contest, or in the manga when King hands his ass to him in video games. Frustrated as he might be when he actually loses, he keeps coming back for more, because having a challenge to overcome is the exact thing that he wants. Craves, and that hero work just can't give him anymore. But, more to the point, he's happy because he's not lonely anymore.
He's got people around him.
Human contact and camaraderie is one of the most fulfilling things in life. And from Genos forcing his way into his life, to joining up with the Hero Association, to, well, basically every significant development in One Punch Man's story, making friends and becoming less isolated is the main vector by which Saitama improves his own disposition and his lot in life. Not by beating up bad guys, not by gaining mass recognition for his deeds, but by sitting down for a piping hot bowl of ramen with Moomin Rider. One highlights a very real problem that a lot of adults face, and then shows a solution to it in a pretty clever way. Of course, One Punch Man is an action comedy designed to satirize the tropes of superhero and shonen battle stories, so this character development is kept light and funny, not all dour and serious like I'm describing it, but still, this very human struggle is what gives Saitama depth as a character, what drives the plot forward, and what makes a lot of the jokes land. Now, Mob's growth as a character is similarly divorced from his combat skills, but the things that he needs are very different from what Saitama needs. Even at the beginning of the story, Mob isn't short on friends or support structure. He's got his family and Reagan, and while he's quiet, it's not like he never talks to the other kids at school. Mob isn't exactly lonely, but he's still isolated because
Joins the sports team.
He's a kid naturally overflowing with emotions that he keeps tightly bottled up so that they won't cause problems for those around him,
and
which is a more tangible concern
going
for
up to
him than it is for most people who repress their emotions, but still something that's bad for him that he needs to overcome. His arc in the anime, and especially the manga, boils down to gaining self-confidence, learning to accept and understand others, faults and all, and eventually coming out of his own shell. Which is why many of Mob's fights end in a very different kind of anticlimax from the ones that Saitama gets into. While engaging in a psychic battle of wills, Mob will also engage his foe in a conversation and try to change their point of view. And more often than not, it works a lot better than simply obliterating them with psychic force. Teruki turns his entire way of thinking around after fighting Mob,
he really does,
because of Mob's overwhelming power, but mostly because he realizes what an immature dick he was being. And when Mob faces off against childish adults who he doesn't have the capability of convincing, he transfers his power to Reagan, not so that he can beat the crap out of them instead, but in order to put him in a position of authority from which he can use his experience and relative maturity to talk some sense into them. The first time you read or watch Mob Psycho, the idea of Reagan, a fake psychic, being Mob's mentor seems really strange, but Mob doesn't need to learn to be a better psychic. In his world and the real world, the path to happiness lies not in obsessing over what you're good at and lording it over others, but rather in working on areas where you're lacking and finding a way to be content with and open about who you are. What Mob needs to learn is how to be a better, more well-rounded person. Reagan,
was nice
who's
as well,
great at reading what other people are really thinking, including the quiet Mob, and who uses his natural talents for bullshitting to trick paranoid and gullible people into doing things that are actually really good for them, is, well, not a perfect role model, but as good as or better than any other responsible adult would be. As Mob develops as a character and becomes more open and self-confident, a lot of great stuff happens that I'm not going to spoil for anime-only fans, but suffice it to say, he goes through some emotionally heavy stuff that could give many of the best anime dramas a run for their money. What really impresses me about Mob Psycho 100 is how, by subverting a genre meant to serve as an escape from kids' normal lives, one manages to paint a more honest, nuanced, and valuable picture of middle school life and the process of growing up than most normal manga and anime that are explicitly about that, even if it's painted with a very crude brush. And likewise, by power creeping the escapist fantasy out of your average superhero narrative in One Punch Man, he kickstarts a very adult discussion about social isolation, depression, and the unhealthy way that people's obsessions can keep them from digging themselves out of those holes. But what's most impressive is that by marrying his themes to the execution of each series' plot and using them to inform the ways that their tropes play out, he gives us all of this to think about while consistently making us laugh our asses off. And while telling what are still fundamentally good superhero stories that deliver on what most people want from the genre. If Mob's drive to be a better person has inspired you the way it inspired me, then you should check out Skillshare, an online learning community where you can take classes on just about any skill you might be interested in from experts who know what they're talking about. Unfortunately, last I checked, neither super strength nor psychic powers are in their syllabus, but if you want to learn how to cook, code, make videos, draw, run a small business, or speak Japanese, Skillshare has you covered. A premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can take classes at a pace and schedule that works for you. And the site helps you plan that out by telling you exactly how much time it will take to watch a tutorial before you even click on it. On top of being convenient, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than most education platforms out there, with an annual subscription costing less than $10 a month. If you made it to the end of this video, chances are good that you have at least some interest in writing, and starting on October 29th, Skillshare's running a month-long workshop on creative writing. Workshops like these present an opportunity not just to learn a skill, but to get real-time feedback from your classmates as you work on it, which can be invaluable when it comes to building creative skills like writing or illustration. subscription. And the best part is it won't cost you anything to try it. Right now, Skillshare is offering 2 months of free premium membership to the first 500 people who sign up to learn at skl.sh.
Well, that'll be out of the way. That'll be done now.
If you are inclined to hurry, you can jump into those workshops or any other class they offer entirely free, with enough time left over to take whatever class piques your interest on winter holiday.
Cool.
What are you waiting for? Click the link in the doobly-doo or go to skl.sh/basement2 to sign up and get learning today. Like I said at the top of this video, One is an all-around excellent writer with a lot of things that make him great.
Yep.
But the way that he digs into the motivations and personalities of his characters and reflects them within the broader stories that he's telling is my favorite thing about his work. Now, this was a lot of really serious writing talk, so let me know in the comments below what your personal theory is for why Saitama is able to confidently defeat a guy who can run at the speed of sound, but isn't able to beat a mosquito. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the like button or, you know, all that stuff that YouTubers ask you to do. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.
Nice. That was a good video. Nice little discussion piece on Mob Psycho and One Punch Man. I can't wait for season 2 of those shows. It's gonna be so good. It's been too long. It's been too long. I mean, it doesn't feel too long for me with Mob Psycho, because I've only recently, like the past couple of months, watched that. But One Punch Man, I watched that as it was coming out, and I was just like, oh my god, I need more. So yeah, that was cool. Thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments down below, let me know what else I want to discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys next time.